This is one of my most asked questions, and I'm really excited to break down all things gut health and really explain in depth how I reversed my chronic gut issues. So to set the scene, many years ago, I was struggling with bloating, gas, constipation, just all the things. My gut looked like I was 6 months pregnant bloated. I'll drop a picture here. And I went to so many gastroenterologists. I did all the testing through traditional medicine, and they kept telling me that everything looks normal and fine, you just need to take Miralax, and that was pretty much the solution. I knew deep down that something was horribly wrong because I was eating super clean, doing all the right things, but I was still experiencing chronic bloating and gut issues. So the first step on my gut healing journey was getting lab testing done to truly understand what was actually going on inside my gut microbiome. So the test that I did is a functional stool test. I actually run this in my practice today, but really looking at all of the bacterial components in the gut, meaning we have our little gut microbiome that's full of bacteria. Some is good, some is not so good, and you can get an imbalance in that bacteria leading to that like chronic bloating, especially when you eat like super healthy foods. So understanding that I had that bacterial overgrowth was essential for understanding my next steps in my gut healing journey. I also found out that I had leaky gut and I wasn't digesting and breaking down my foods properly, which was leading to more gut issues and just feeling awful and fatigued, and it was actually impacting my metabolism, my thyroid, and my hormones, because your gut really is connected to so many other aspects of your health, which I found super interesting. So step one on the gut healing journey was getting the stool test done from a functional perspective to really understand what was going on internally. Step number two, I started following a gluten-free diet, and this was huge for me. As soon as I started removing gluten from my diet, I really did notice a huge shift in inflammation, better digestion, and even my energy levels improved when I removed gluten. I also, around this time, discovered I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks your thyroid, and following a gluten-free diet can help improve Hashimoto's alongside the gut issues that I was dealing with. So this was a huge game changer for me. I'm still gluten-free, and honestly now it's not hard at all to follow a gluten-free diet because so many different restaurants and places have so many options. Years ago when I first started gluten-free, I was having an emotional breakdown because I was like, where am I gonna find gluten-free stuff? Because it was just like non-existent. You would go to a restaurant and they didn't even know what gluten was. So we are doing much better now with the gluten-free stuff, and there's like amazing options. So gluten-free was huge for me, and I've been gluten-free for about 12 to 13 years. So amazing. Step number three on my gut healing journey, I really focused on stress management. So through kind of my journey of testing and trying to figure out all these things, I did a cortisol test and found out that my cortisol levels were through the roof. Stress hormone, cortisol, is produced by your adrenal glands when your body is stressed, physical, mental, emotional. For me, I was putting a lot of physical stress on my body. So I was doing HIIT workouts, spin classes, really heavy weight training, and I wasn't prioritizing rest and recovery enough. So I was overtraining, kind of getting that puffy, swollen look, and it was actually having a direct impact on my gut microbiome. An interesting fact about cortisol, when your cortisol levels are really high, it actually slows down digestion immensely. So you're gonna get more constipated, you're gonna get more bloated, and then it actually decreases stomach acidity and just promotes like the perfect breeding ground for that bad bacteria. Cortisol can also increase intestinal permeability or leaky gut, which I struggled with all those things. So reducing cortisol was huge in my gut healing journey. So again, for me, that really just meant cutting out the HIIT workouts, prioritizing self-care, rest, recovery, committing to less things, saying no to people, having boundaries with work and school. So those were the kind of primary things that made a huge difference in my cortisol regulation journey. Step number 4 on my gut healing journey was the removal phase. So getting into some supplement strategies here. When you have that bacterial overgrowth going on in the gut, you do need to get in there typically with some antimicrobial supplements. A few really good ones just off the top of my head, and I honestly transitioned through all of these across the span of 12 to 24 weeks. Yes, my gut healing journey took me like 6 to 12 months, but kind of using all these antimicrobials throughout the process really helped to kind of shock my microbiome and shift the bacteria. So berberine is a good one, oregano oil, olive leaf, caprylic acid. Wormwood is good, especially if you have parasites from your lab testing. Those are kind of just primarily a few things that work really well. Biocidin is a good product-specific supplement, and then also using binding agents, so a binder to help bind to those toxins and get them out of the body a little bit more effectively. So using antimicrobials and binders is super helpful for kind of removing that non-beneficial bacteria. I also at the same time added in digestive enzyme support and gut barrier support. So I was kind of doing 3 different things at the same time when it came to supplementation. So removing bad bacteria with antimicrobials, and then using digestive enzymes and mucosal barrier support because I needed stuff to kind of help reduce inflammation and repair my gut lining. So those are all the things that I did kind of in that first initial supplementation phase. And again, transitioned through a bunch of different supplements throughout the 12 to 24 week time period, which is critical so your body doesn't get used to the same supplement that you continue to take over that time period. So that was the removal phase. Step number 5, I followed a low FODMAP diet for 6 to 8 weeks. This was incredibly helpful for really trying to reduce my symptoms quickly. Foods that are high in FODMAPs ferment in the gut, which can be a good thing, but if you have a lot of that bad bacteria overgrown in your gut, you're not gonna be able to handle those foods, and it's actually just gonna create more inflammation and be really hard to digest and make you more bloated. So I followed a low FODMAP diet, again, only for a short period of time, really just removing those foods that I was having a really hard time with, and then reintroducing them later on down the road. Foods that are high in FODMAPs: onion, garlic, cauliflower, asparagus, high sugar fruits, dairy, wheat. Artificial sweeteners are a really big one, and I was consuming a lot of like energy drinks and protein bars and protein powders that had a lot of that stuff in it. So I did low FODMAP for like 6 to 8 weeks, removing all those foods, and then I really focused on an anti-inflammatory whole foods diet with that, and kind of moved away from like protein bars, protein powders that were really disrupting my gut microbiome. Step number 6, I introduced something called carb cycling, and this was at the same time as low FODMAP and kind of the supplement strategy that I just mentioned earlier. Carb cycling is a really effective strategy for getting rid of chronic gut issues, especially if you have a lot of bacterial overgrowth is what we call it. If you follow a high carb diet for a few days out of the week, you're feeding up that bacteria in the gut, so you can use those antimicrobials to address that bacteria as you're kind of promoting it come up, and then you use the antimicrobials to get rid of it. And then you go low carb for the rest of the days of the week, and that helps out starve out some of that bacteria. It can really help with the gut microbiome, but also help with weight loss, body composition as well, so you're kind of getting a multitude of different benefits from it. I only followed that for about 12 weeks before I kind of just went to one set of macros, but that carb cycling effect can be really good if you have chronic gut issues. Again, I was using the antimicrobials, digestive enzymes, mucosal barrier support, doing some low FODMAP diet with that, and then again, just doing the carb cycling. So a super helpful strategy if you have a lot of bacterial issues in the gut. Step number 7 in my gut healing journey, adding foods back in. So after I finished kind of that 12 to 24 week period of doing intensive gut protocol stuff with like all the supplements and really just trying to get my bloating down to something that was comfortable for me. I started slowly adding foods back into my diet, not all at once, but slowly started reintroducing things. I did stay dairy-free for a while just because my gut felt like it was still pretty sensitive for a couple of years after I completed the initial kind of 6-month protocol. Still gluten-free though, that was essential for my thyroid and gut microbiome, so kept with the gluten-free, but really started introducing more variety back into my diet because following low FODMAP is not a long-term solution, but it can help alleviate some of those symptoms intermittently. So I did start adding foods back in. And then step number 8, this one is really important and kind of shocking. I didn't add probiotics back into my supplement regimen until like a year after going through kind of my gut protocol. I think most people, obviously, probiotics are noted as a gut health supplement, but if you're dealing with a lot of bacterial overgrowth issues and you just throw a bunch of probiotics into the mix, you're gonna be extremely bloated. So I avoided probiotics for a solid like 2 years, did my gut protocol, and then didn't add probiotics back in until a 2 to 3 years later, which kind of helped restore some of that good bacteria, but I didn't introduce it too soon because that would have kind of relapsed me back to the beginning. So that's an essential step in the gut healing process. And then last but not least, kind of just where I'm at today, I don't deal with gut issues. Every now and then if I travel, you know, I think it's important to normalize a little bit that everyone has some gut issues, but if you're chronically distended like I was many years ago, that is very much not normal. Or if you're having chronic constipation, chronic loose stool, and it's like daily and debilitating, that is very much not normal. But every now and then, if you eat something that you might not normally eat or travel and you notice you have some gut issues, that's sometimes a little bit to be expected, and I definitely get that every once in a while. But for the most part, I don't struggle with gut issues. I eat a very diverse diet. I literally do not restrict at all. The most important thing, I come from just a very restrictive mindset with nutrition and exercise and all the things. So having that diet variation and just no rules around food other than the gluten-free is so helpful for my mental health and honestly just maintaining my results. One of the best things that you can do long-term for your gut microbiome is avoid a monotonous diet. So like the bodybuilder, chicken and rice for every single meal and not having any sort of colors and fruits and fiber. That's what you want to stick to long-term and avoid that monotonous diet. You know, the same diet only works for so long until it doesn't, and that's why a lot of people will follow AIP or keto or whatever diet they want to follow, and then for a little bit they're seeing some good results, and then long term they're like, I feel, you know, the same as I did before, but initially I felt really good. And it's because you're shocking the microbiome with the different diet strategies, which again is why diet variation is everything. So focusing on that long term has really helped keep my gut in a good place, just not falling into following the same diet all the time, really just introducing new fruits, veggies, and fiber into my diet is super helpful. So I hope that was helpful. Comment below if you have any specific questions. Make sure you turn the notification bell on, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.